In this lecture, we are going to authorize our Google API from Salesforce. So we are going to follow a process where we are going to prepare the step 1 for getting that authorization code, and then after we are going to create Salesforce Apex method, which will get that access token, deploy that metadata into the custom metadata that we have created, and at the end we are going to create an event into the Google Calendar, the test event that we also tested in our previous lecture. So these are the few steps that we are going to follow. Again, we have to add a remote site setting because we wanted to make an external API callout inside from Salesforce to a Google API, and then we are again going to create a custom metadata to store the Google application credentials and other URL details. And because we are trying to give the flexibility to the users to create any custom metadata, that means to provide any name to the custom metadata, we are going to create a custom label where that is going to store the master label of our custom metadata that we have just created. And we are going to make the changes into the VA page that we created earlier, so that we can hit a button, and that button is going to take you into the URL where you need to select which Google account you wanted to authorize, and then after that you are going to the next is going to taken care by our VA page itself. So let's quickly start with that. With the very first step is adding remote site setting. So this is my Salesforce org. Log in into your Salesforce org, and then first thing that you need to go is you need to go to remote site settings. And from this remote site settings, as we know that we have to add remote site settings for every API that we need to consume from Salesforce. So first thing is that we need to get what URL we wanted to consume. The very thing is that, and then we need to add that URL. So how we can get that URL is we can just quickly get back to our previous lecture, and we can just go to here in this link, and in this link itself, and we can just go to the second link, because we have uh, performed some actions with the help of a Google console. So we are going to get here. So this is the URL that we need to add, and this URL is not only for the Google Calendar API. This URL is for all the APIs that are provided by Google, like Google Cloud, Google Calendar, Drive, YouTube, Analytics, any API that you wanted to have. So here we, instead of saying that, we will say Google API, and then we are going to use this URL, which is endpoint. Just go ahead and save this. We have added that remote site settings. Let's quickly talk about the metadata. We have to create a metadata where we need to store. So you don't need to worry about this metadata because you already have installed that all the dependencies in the starting of your lecture, in the starting of this course. So you don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to walk you through. So you can see here we have got these much fields over here, and if you click on this manage Google config, because that is our data, and click on new, I'm just going to show you what fields we need to do here. So you can see we have got this authorization URL, which is again we have gotten from the very first link, which is OAuth 2.0. From here we can get this is our auth URL, and we scroll down below that we will be able to see that this is our token URL. So those values we have given over here of URL, token URL, and this is the base URL of our API. Even we can also say that this is the URL that we added into the remote site. And then client ID, you need to find out from your application. Earlier you must have noted down somewhere. Client secret, again, just note down and copy paste that here. And page name. This is the page that we have created into the previous lecture, which we added as a redirect URL. And then in the scope, this is also a very important field. We have to provide value over here. So what value we need to provide is, we need to provide the same values that we previously, we prepared that URL right here. So you can see this is the URL that we prepared, and we can see what all scopes we have. Up to here, from here to here, let me copy this and I can just show you over there. So this is here, we can just paste it, and let's quickly expand this text area. So I'm going to expand this here. I will say from here to here. So this is the scope details. These are the scopes that we wanted to have. That means we wanted to put scope and make sure that those has been separated by by a space. So we need to put a space over here. So you can put more and more, so that in future if you wanted to add more scopes, right, you can just go ahead and add those scopes. Put a space over here and add that. That is why we are having this scope. And then just name it whatever you want, and then save it. So after that, what we had is, I have already created, I have got this access token. I'm going to remove all those access tokens, because we need to see how it is going to work for us to get those access token, right? So this is what we have got. This is how your token, your metadata will look like. And if you notice over here in this event URL, again we have given some sort of flower brackets and then calendar ID. So what we are going to do is, at the runtime, we are going to replace with our actual calendar ID. That is nothing. We are using email as a calendar ID. That is what we are doing here. And then once we have gotten this, like we have created this, what we need to do is, as we know that this is the Google token, this master, this is config label like, we need to copy this and create a custom label that is also in place. We don't need to create the custom label. So we'll say, there's a custom label over here. And this is the custom label where I have created. With the same name, you can just name it whatever you want. And the value that you need to provide is the exact value that you have given for your custom metadata. If you could have given something else, you can just give that value as well. So after we have this, right, what we need to do is, let's quickly open the page that we have. So this is our VA page. Earlier we don't had any code. Now what we have is, first let me show you this. We have one button called Authorize Google Account, which is calling a method called Get Authorization Code. So this is the very first step we did in our earlier lecture. We prepared a URL, hit it to that browser, and then we selected some Google account to authorize, right? That is what we are going to prepare that. And what we did is, because the same page is being used for token, getting the token. So what we did, on the onload function, what we said, give us the code parameter, and if code, that means if code is having some sort of value, call this action function called access token. And then we have this action function. The name is same here. If you see here, this name and this name are same, because they must be same. And then call another method of get access token. And where all these methods are? These methods are there in a class called Google Util. Now let's have a look into that Google Util class. And the very first method is get authorization code. So let's quickly preview this as well. And I'm going to open this class here, Google Util. You can see. Again, unlike QuickBooks Util, we have the similar method, which is getting the Google configuration record. This is, we have given the metadata name. And again, you can see we have given the label. We are referencing the label that we have stored our metadata master label. And once we have got this, it is returning a Google credential, right? And then this is the method called get authorization code. And from inside this method, we are calling that method to get that Google credentials. If it is null, we are just returning null. One thing that I will say here, if you see here, we are using page reference. Why we are using page reference? Because page reference are used to navigate in the VA page. If you have worked on VA pages previously, if you wanted to navigate from one URL to another URL, what you do is you use a page reference, or you hard code a URL. If you don't know a page reference, you use this page reference and then prepare that page reference, right? That is what we are doing here, is page reference. And this is the URL that we prepared earlier lecture. You can see first we need to have this authorization URL, and then scopes, all the scopes that we need to provide. That is what we said here, Google credential authorization URL. Then put a question mark and say scope equal to what are all the scopes we have provided into that field we discussed. And then what we said, that prompt equal to consent. I'm going to remove this to show you one very good thing that you will definitely love it. I will just show you and add it later on. You can see, and access type is offline. Why? Because we wanted to get that refresh token. And we said that included granted the scope is true, response type is code, and state is just a random integer we are generating with the help of a crypto class that is available inside Salesforce. and we said redirect URI, which is a base URL. You can see what we did is we said return of the base URL from the URL where we are in, append that apex, and then whatever the page name that is there in our metadata. We have gotten that, and then we set client ID. So every single thing we have prepared earlier, we are preparing now dynamically. We are reading that custom metadata, populating those values, and once we have got that what we said, prepare a page reference object and say set redirect as a true and then return that page reference. Okay, let's save this. Now you have noticed one thing, I have removed this part, right? I'm going to show you how important this prompt equal to consent is for us, and even you might want it to use in future or not. This is our Visual Force page. As we have made the changes, I'm going to replace this. So now I will click on this Authorize Google account. Okay, let's click here. So you can see here we have got over here in this page where I can select multiple accounts. So we selected this for a demo purpose. I'm going to select that as well. And you can see I have got the code on the top, and as soon as the code is there, my code is working and I can see authorization is successful, right? If I get back to our metadata, refresh this, I should be able to see the access token and the rest of the information, right? But there is one thing that will be missing. Yeah, we can see now, right? Expires in second, okay, that is correct. Expires in time, access token, everything looks okay, right? But if you have noticed, refresh token is not here. We are not getting a refresh token back. What happens when you authorize your Google account or when you try to use your Google API for the first time, it returns you the access token. But after that, every time when you again reauthorize using that URL, it doesn't return you refresh token. Why? Because there is a genuine reason behind that. The reason is this refresh token is this refresh token doesn't expire. That means never expires. Whatever the refresh token you get, that refresh token will be there to get that access token again and again. But what happens in other APIs, that refresh token also get expired after some time. But this refresh token doesn't expire. That is why it only returns for the first time. Now, if you wanted to get that refresh token, because definitely we want, what we need to do is, now we need to add this prompt equal to consent into our authorized URL. Now, if you see, you will definitely notice one more difference. I will show you here. Click on again that button. It is going to take you to that here. So if you see here again, I got the theme. I'm just going to select this, and after selecting, now you can see that we have got something else. It said it is app isn't verified. We can select go to visualforce.com because we know that this is. Now you can see, right, we are getting these choices. We had to allow again. That is what prompt equal to consent does. Now we have got this code. It will run the code behind the scene, and then we will see the success matches here. You can see if we get back to this same page again, we refresh this. Now we got this access token. So that is how we can get that access token. We can prepare the URL in Salesforce, and then we can start working on that. Okay. Now let's quickly talk about to implement the refresh token method, right? Because as we have refresh token, we must need to refresh the token. Why? Because after 3599 seconds, that means approx 60 minutes, it is going to expire our access token. So we must need to have a new access token for us to make the API call. So how it will do is, we have created one method like we discussed in our QuickBooks util as well, which is checking the token validity, accepting one parameter, which is Google token itself, checking if the expires in time, which is our API, which holds the value in the time. You see here in time, this is our P, which is less than system.now. That means the token has been expired, and return false. That means token has been expired. You have to get a refresh token. Now this is okay. Before that, let's quickly talk about our get access token method, which is actually getting that token. So what happens in the Visual Force page, when we get that code, call this action function, and action function calls our method called get access token. Now what this token does, again gets all those metadata details, and then say that endpoint, which is our URL, and then here we need to prepare the body. How we are going to prepare the body? If you remember, this is the body that we prepared earlier, right? So I'm just going to paste it over here. So you can see we prepared code, what code is that is dynamically we are getting from the parameter, and then client ID, client secret, redirect URI. We again prepared a redirect URI over here. Grant type, which is again hard coded, authorization code. So we just prepared the body, prepared a request with the help of a helper method again, which we also taught in our QuickBooks while we were working with QuickBooks. So this prepare request, what is having is it is accepting some parameters like what is endpoint we wanted to access, what is access token if it is a valid method, request body, and content type. What I said here, I added content type. I said we want to accept, we want to get the information in the form of JSON, and here I put a check if there is a valid access token. Add that as here like bearer because we are talking with bearer, and if there is a valid body, add that body as well, and then return that request. That is what here we called. So we have called over here, we sent a blank access token. Why? Because this time we don't have any access token, and we are actually getting an access token. Method is post, request body, whatever we prepared, and this is our content type that we use to send to get that access token. Again, we send with the help of a try catch. If response is 200 or 201, you can just replace the, you can just add that line as well, 201. And then again, we just, what we did is, again, we just passed into the Google token class, again, which is containing 4 to 5 variables. I can just open this to show you. It is containing 5 variables like what is access token, when it is getting expired, token type, scope, and refresh token. After that, we just prepared this map again to deploy the metadata. We already discussed about that. We prepared that metadata map with the help of API key and what value we wanted to put against that. And then here we have got this metadata. We prepared Google config. This is the actual, this is the actual name of our metadata. If you go back, yeah, this is the name, object name basically we are using for here. And then whatever we have given in the token. So whatever value you will change in the label, it is going to take it here. And then it is just sending that, giving us the message. That is what our access token is doing. Now, if we have access token, we definitely need that access token. Again, we created the same method. It is doing nothing exactly same we have here, which we did for our QuickBooks. Instead of accepting QuickBooks metadata, it is accepting Google config. And the similar kind of things we are going to do for all those coming APIs as well who are using 2.0, OAuth 2.0 for authentication. Again, we have got this client ID, client secret, refresh token, grant type. How to get this body, what all body it is accepting? Again, we have to refer this API. If you scroll down and just scroll down, you will see those here on the bottom itself. You will see refreshing an access token, which is offline access. You can see this is the body that you have to prepare. Method is post. URL is same that we have used to get the access token. That is how you can prepare your body over here. That is what we did. Again, we prepared the same request here. And this time what we did is we just passed the response, prepared the map, and we did not deploy it. Why we already discussed, because if you try to deploy this, I will show you in the next lecture, because this time we have generated that code immediately, right? So that is why we are not able to get that error, but I will show you the error definitely in the next lecture. So for that, I'm again going to put the same code to deploy that metadata in that method so that we can test it and we will definitely get that error. So here I'm just deploying over, right? That's it. So we just deployed it for now because we wanted to show you the error. And the last thing that we wanted to have is we wanted to create a Google Calendar event with the help of the access token that we have got. So what we did, we created an event of, we created a method called create Google event. We got that information, metadata and all, and this is our Google create event URL. If you see here, we have given this calendar ID. So what we are doing here is we are replacing our calendar ID with our calendar ID. You might wanted to use some sort of custom metadata to store these calendar IDs or custom labels, but I have just put it a hard code to show you. And we have got this access token over here. And what we did here, we are calling that method check token validity to check the validation or if our token is expired or not. If that is expired, we said that get us the newly accessed token, which we have there in the refresh token map. Okay, that is what we have got over here. Now we are calling that method. And then what we did is again we have prepared the same body over here. Again prepared the request over here, and then we made that if token is not valid, we are deploying it over here. So let's try to test it if it is working or not by creating a method over by creating an event over here, right? So I'm just going to execute. Just open this window directly. You can just go to uh, edit, or you just go to debug and execute in on this window. So we have got this Google token util, and we have a method over here called create Google event. And just make sure this is checkbox is checked so that it opens the debug log. So if you click on debug only, you can see that we've got this event response on line number 165, and we got the response in JSON. If you want to have that response into the Salesforce, you can just go get that response and pass that and store into the Salesforce. So if you see 165 was the debug here, and we can see 165 is the debug and exact text, static text that we have given Google event response. So this is how you can just authenticate with Google API and make the interaction from Google to Salesforce